Hello, and welcome to EMPath's first ever virtual gala, celebrating the end of a successful Disrupting Poverty Together Summit, where we've had hundreds of people from nonprofits and government agencies across the globe come together for 2 days of great learning and growth. I'm Nikki Ruiz de Luzuriaga, Vice President for Institutional Advancement at Economic Mobility Pathways, or EMPath for short. I'm thrilled to have so many friends, old and new, joining us today. Many of you have come to EMPath's events in the past where we've mostly focused on the direct work EMPath does with families here in Boston. Tonight, however, we'll be celebrating the work EMPath is leading across the country through our network, the Economic Mobility Exchange, or the Exchange for short. Now, I know that at this point in pandemic life, we're all really zoomed out, so I really appreciate you making the time to be here today. Out of respect for your time, we're keeping today's program really short, just about half an hour. I'll have some brief remarks, and then I'll be joined by members of EMPath's Economic Mobility Exchange who will speak about how it's changed their work. After that, you're welcome to stick around for some Q&A with me, or you're also welcome to log off then. We hope that you'll be moved to support the vital work of EMPath's Exchange today. If you want to donate at any point, you can go to our website, empathways.org. We'll also share a link and a QR code at the end. So tonight is all about celebrating the ways in which we disrupt poverty together. Even before the pandemic, poverty was a huge and growing problem in the United States. And we know now that inequality has only grown in the past year. Addressing the huge issue of poverty is more than one organization can do alone. That's really why EMPath started the exchange. We had developed a model called mobility mentoring that we knew was getting far better outcomes for families than the norm. For example, in our flagship program, participants double and nearly triple their incomes. That's just unheard of in today's world. Other organizations saw the outcomes EMPath was getting and came to us saying, we want that too. So EMPath decided to go against most people's advice and open up our model to others. We created the exchange as a place that nonprofits and government agencies could come to not just learn about mobility mentoring, but also share and learn from each other about the very best ways to help families move forward and thrive. We now have over 140 member organizations who have joined us in our network, spread across the US and in other countries as well. Members of the exchange are united by a realization that moving out of poverty is complex, and families must optimize all the important domains in their life in order to thrive. This understanding is codified in one of EMPath's main tools, the Bridge to Self-Sufficiency, which you'll likely hear more about in just a moment. The bridge metaphor is that the journey from poverty to self-sufficiency is like traveling across a bridge held up by 5 pillars: family stability, well-being, financial management, education, and career. We have to work on all of these domains if we hope to be successful in our programs. Members of the exchange are also united by a dissatisfaction with the status quo of how we've addressed poverty as a sector. For too long, we've been content to make poverty a bit more comfortable for families stuck at the bottom, providing important services, but not actually helping people move to a sustainably better place where they're no longer struggling. Further, services were often provided to families in a way that kept in place and often reaffirmed existing power structures based on class and race, and assumed that people living in poverty needed to be told what to do. In EMPath's exchange, we're united by our desire to do more and do better. We're laser focused on real economic mobility for all, helping families to ultimately attain jobs that pay family-sustaining wages and build assets to create a better future for their families. To do that, we utilize a consistent coaching approach, mobility mentoring, that is supported by the latest science, treating people with dignity and respect, helping people to identify their own goals and motivators, and helping them to bounce back when roadblocks inevitably come up. Emerging evidence from EMPath and member organizations shows that mobility mentoring works equally well for people of diverse racial and ethnic backgrounds, helping everyone move forward in truly meaningful ways. EMPath's vision is to shift the entire human services sector to provide this kind of transformative support to families who need it. And we hope you'll come along with us as supporters, member organizations, and people who can help spread the word about mobility mentoring. So now I'm going to turn it over to a group that truly personifies what it means to be disrupting poverty together. I'll be joined by Beth Babcock, EMPath's president and CEO here in Boston. We also have a diverse group of exchange members here from across the country. They have implemented mobility mentoring in their organizations and can speak to the real difference it makes. A special thanks to people from these organizations who took time out of their busy schedules to be with us today. Episcopal Community Services of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Impact Community Action from Columbus, Ohio, Enterprising Latinas from Umama, Florida, Rung for Women of St. Louis, Missouri, Baby University of Toledo, Ohio, and Restoration House of Eastern Tennessee. So the first question I have for this group is, what is EMPath's Exchange?
The Exchange is a network of wonderful organizations across the United States and other countries, now about 140 plus, that are all committed to moving families to economic independence and are using mobility mentoring tools and learning to improve that work. And what's amazing about them is as they deliver coaching services, they're sharing what they're learning with each other. And in that way, are creating an amazing, powerful hive brain that allows us to evolve the practice and make our work stronger every day.
The Exchange is a really wonderful learning community of nonprofit organizations across the country who are committed to ending poverty and doing it through economic mobility.
The Exchange is a wonderful learning network of all of these like-minded organizations and individuals that have decided to invest in the use of mobility mentoring as the tool and the method through which they will engage their communities in disrupting poverty and moving folks out of poverty. So for us, it has meant an opportunity to learn about other practitioners and how they have adapted the bridge tool, and also how is it that they complement the use of the bridge with other tools, because definitely the bridge is the first conversation with participants and members in their path to prosperity, and it has been wonderful to see and to learn from other practitioners and to try to build this community of folks who are committed to use the principles of mobility mentoring in real life.
The Exchange has been an amazing network of practitioners and professionals just connecting together around similar work, promoting economic mobility, thinking about our own communities and our own contexts, and so an opportunity to learn from one another and an opportunity to make sure that the work we're doing is the very best that it can be.
Our next question is, why did you join EMPath's Exchange?
About 4 years ago, where ECS was in the middle of a strategic planning process, we're 150 years old this year, and we have constantly evolved to meet needs of the community. And that strategic plan really caused us to look at the overwhelming issues that were occurring in the city. That became to us very obvious that it was intergenerational poverty, and the current processes to address that. We concluded we were, as a sector, maintaining people in poverty, but we as an agency really wanted to see if there was a different way of doing this work that would, by meeting people where they are, lift them out of poverty. So we went out and did a bunch of research. We found an organization in Boston called EMPath, and they have, for the last now 11 years, had a case management program that is based on the best available brain science and a coaching methodology to utilize that brain science to help people lift themselves out of poverty.
We were drawn to the Exchange because we needed resources. We needed help, more than just the basic, mobility mentoring, essentials training. We needed information on how to apply that training to our own organization and the programs that we're doing. we needed more input from EMPath as far as the latest research and what they are doing, and input from other organizations so we can learn from their mistakes or learn from their successes, what's working, what's not. What we appreciate most are the webinars and the newsletters and the resources. I love to hear what EMPath is studying right now, what their books that they recommend or webinars or trainings that they recommend. That just keeps us engaged and keeps us informed and on the front lines of trying to do this with excellence.
So Enterprising Latinas decided to join the exchange after attending the Disrupting Poverty Conference in 2018. We had heard of Crittenden Women's Union. We had heard of EMPath. We had never been to the conference. And when we attended, we said, yes, this is it. This is the tool that will help us and will guide us. And this is the right framework to guide us in the work that we want to do with individuals here in Waimama. In our community, and that reflects that more comprehensive approach to addressing challenges and barriers and involved in terms of living in poverty.
So Run for Women decided to join the exchange literally as we were starting our organization. When we were looking at best practices across the country, we came across EMPath and were really drawn to the work that was being done around economic mobility and really social capital. And the concept was just really fascinating to our board. And so we have been exchange members since really the founding of our organization. And so we started in 2017 as this kind of new pivot from a previous organization, really committed to economic mobility and ending poverty for women. And so we've remained committed to the exchange because we just learn so much. It is a great community to really tap into the power and potential of what's happening, what great things that are happening across the country. And we use a lot of the information to help evolve and continuously learn within our own organization.
Man, I actually joined the exchange for my professional growth and to connect with like-minded professionals. And I've stayed engaged because I've been able to connect with individuals from around the country. And it's also helped me to stay current on proven methods on how to engage with the individuals that I meet with.
Next, tell us more about how your work has changed since you joined EMPath's exchange and started using mobility mentoring.
Mobility mentoring, which we at ECS call coaching, is a phenomenal way of allowing the participants to take control of their life. I think about the work that I've done with ECS for almost 6 years. And in our beginning phase, before we started with coaching and the mobility mentoring model, it was a one-directional process in which coaches, or rather case managers, gave participants directions and told them, this is what you're going to do. They were supposed to come back at their next meeting and bring back the completed items or the tasks that they were supposed to have done since their last meeting. What mobility mentoring and coaching does is it gives participants power and control over what happens in their life. So they get to choose what activities and goals they work on, and the participants are more interested and more vested in the work and what happens. It's been wonderful to see people thrive and to succeed because they're working on things that they're passionate about and they care about. And so watching people flourish and obtain employment and save money and work towards getting houses and cars has been exciting and thrilling for me. And I'm just so excited about the opportunity to continue to work with participants and to watch them move forward in this mobility mentoring model.
So one thing that we were so excited about is when the first stimulus checks hit, I believe it was $1,200 per family. One of our families that had been engaging in mobility mentoring called their mentor and said, we have this $1,200 and we were thinking about investing it. Can you connect us with some resources on how we can invest this money? And just the fact that they were financially stable enough to have the luxury of thinking about investing money instead of, putting out fires or just buying stuff that they needed so badly, but that they had come so far from like no income to having enough income to even start wanting to learn about investing. That for us was a big success story.
The ability of our entire staff, receiving training online about the model, the exchange, the bridge, the tools, mobility mentoring has been fantastic. Right, there's a greater understanding and a joint group commitment, to going deeper and to perfecting and improving the quality of the practice of the application of the bridge and also mobility mentoring. And it's really exciting to see what the team is able to accomplish, right? And how our members are responding to the use of mobility, to the application of mobility mentoring, to the use of the bridge.
The first thing that comes to mind is just starting to use that term mobility mentor. Once I heard that in my next staff meeting, I shared to our team, I was like, the new word, something that I want us to all gravitate toward is the word mobility, that mobility mentor. So that was like the first indicator to me that this program was working, because that word mobility, it's movement. So that meant a lot. And then it was interesting how I had several components that are things that I was already doing in my work, but when I started to attend like the mobility mentoring, that bridge to self-sufficiency, that type of work, it became more structured. It became more meaningful, and I was able to kind of create like a flow to my work, and it helped me to help my clients move through those barriers and those trials when stress popped up. I think the biggest thing, I was going through a training, and the trainings were real life experiences that were happening to some of my clients. So I was able to pause the video and put some of the information that I learned to action like in the same day. The result of that was a young lady that I was working with here in Ohio. We have a homeless program where the shelters will help individuals, secure housing. And she had been at this point before, but due to stress and other factors, it always fell through and she would just leave. Because of the information I learned through that training, I was able to give her some stress management tips. She stayed at the shelter, and now she has her own apartment. And I really do attribute that a lot to the training that I had. So it's been very meaningful, to me.
10 years ago, we were an organization that maybe 1 to 5% of the participants that we were serving overall were getting new jobs in a given year. And now, those numbers are in the 75, 76% level, and you could take just about any other outcomes that we track and you'd see savings or debt reduction or increases in family stability. All of those numbers have had similar trajectories. So for us, it's just been pivotal, because it's really taken our work and shifted it from the work of giving people fish to actually teaching people how to fish. And it's more than an aphorism, it's something that we know from the numbers, and something that we see in our staff who have gone from, feeling as though they have to solve, as a case manager, they have to solve people's problems, to actually understanding that as a coach, they can leave people with skills that will allow them to solve their own problems in better and stronger ways.
Everyone follows this case management model, but this is the model of coaching that we want to follow. And that model of coaching just simply states that we are the students and the participants are the teacher, because they are the best at knowing who they are. So giving them a goal action plan and laying out a SMART goal, for instance, specific, measurable, obtainable, relevant, is the most important part to me as a coach and all of my other colleagues as coaches, relevant and time bound. And we emphasize that relevancy because we want to know why you're doing it. If your why is strong enough, you can get anything accomplished that you want to get accomplished. And these are the things that we go through with our participants. We look at the bridge. The bridge is a holistic view of a participant. You have different pillars on each side of the bridge. And if anyone knows about a bridge and pillars, if one of those pillars are weak, then that bridge is weak in that area. So we strengthen the participant in those areas where they are weak. We help them.
What do you wish people knew about poverty?
One is that people that are poor don't often look like what we think they look like. There are people that work hard every day and may even have multiple jobs and still are struggling and have challenges getting the things that they need to do done and getting the resources that they need in order to make things happen for their family. They're not lazy. They're not looking for or waiting for handouts. They work hard each and every day, and they want better for themselves and they want better for their families. What I also wish that people knew about the work that I do is that people that are impoverished are also, they desire and they want change. They don't want someone to give them something. They are willing to do the work. And they're just looking for opportunities and connections. And once they have those opportunities and connections, they are willing to leverage those things and do what they need to do in order to move forward and to progress, so that they don't need to rely on entitlements or benefits, but they can be independent and self-sufficient and continue to move forward and be successful, just like any other human being.
It is possible to break the poverty cycle, and that there are so many resources and organizations that are there to support through that process. So I really want them to know and to feel that it is possible.
Poverty is incredibly complex, and we know that it's caused by a lot of systems, economic and social systems, and there's so many things that impact that, such as political decisions and other financial markets. And I think a lot of times we try to make it very much about the individual instead of considering the systems that are at play.
What I wish people could see is what we see in our organization: young families struggling, young families trying to do the right thing and trying to get ahead, and not able to do that because of the multi-layered, difficult boundaries and obstacles that are in their way every day. I wish people could take those preconceived notions about if they just worked harder, if they just got the right education or any of those things, and put them on a shelf and just see the struggle that our families are dealing with and the very complex, multi-layered problems that they have to overcome in order to just make it.
What do you see as the future of disrupting poverty?
One, I hope that we have many more agencies and organizations that choose to move towards a coaching model, that there's the possibility and the future of us all using the same common language, that we would all work towards making this process of helping people to change their life by making this a client or a participant-centered process and not an outside-centered process, so that participants are able to work on things that matter and are important to them and to their families. I also hope that legislators and the government will begin to look at this idea of making things participant-centered, and that we can work to strategically think about ways on the political level so that we can work to support our people in removing barriers that keep them from being able to attain a self-sustaining wage and support themselves, and that we would continue in multifaceted ways to support individuals who have a desire to change in moving forward and accomplishing their goals, helping to make themselves self-sufficient and continuing to grow and to learn and to be a contributing citizen, which is the desire of most people.
Right. So I think the future for disrupting poverty in general would be to continue to empower families and to design programming that meets them where they are, and that is able to follow them, that is able to support them through the process, through the long-term process of moving from dependency to self-sufficiency. In order to do that, our programs need to be holistic, longitudinal, supportive, and to know where the families are at and to know where they can be and to empower them to do that. Instead of case management, we need a lot more of coaching and empowering.
I see the future of disrupting poverty to be a real shift from thinking that we have to force people who are in poverty to do things, to understanding that people in poverty want to get themselves better jobs, want more education, want better housing for their family, want better opportunities for their kids, and that what's lacking is the support and the resources to partner with people to help them actually do that work they want to do. It's getting out of poverty isn't something that you have to force people to do. Getting out of poverty is something that you have to support and partner with people to do. And I see that transformation to putting participants in the driver's seat as a huge revolution that is going to be happening in human services in the years to come.
We need to engage more human service professionals in this work, in rethinking, what disrupting poverty means, right? And we are responsible for the way that we approach, members of our community that are living in poverty, and how we, make them feel, empowered, to overcome, their situations, right? I think changing of that mindset is, one of the most, powerful things that we can do. And then to actually lay the foundation, to disrupt poverty for real, right? Changing, that will allow us to change the narrative and to change the narrative that is associated with places that are deemed, poor and stuck in poverty, right? It will allow us, to more tools, additional tools to claim and demand, the public investments that are necessary, to really, move communities, out of poverty. And address, the peculiar needs of particular populations, immigrants, folks living in disability, all these, diverse groups of people, that have been left behind and neglected, by systems that don't see their potential, don't recognize, that they have a path to prosperity as well. So I'm encouraged, by the growing movement of the exchange, preaching this message. But also practicing and showing that it is possible, right? And it is possible to connect, and where we don't see the ability to connect with the right resources, then point it out and say, it's just like, hey, this is wrong, we need to fix it. So I'm glad that EMPath has decided to invest in the exchange, to share the wisdom that they have accumulated for years, and to really build the capacity of organizations like ours to join them in the pursuit of disrupting poverty for good in this country and elsewhere.
What the pandemic has taught us is that we need to provide opportunities for people to reskill and upskill, and constantly looking to evolve as community, and offering those mobility opportunities. So I hope that we will soon see adoption kind of across the nonprofit sector of this economic mobility concept, and really empowering our clients, members, and participants with the tools they need to really disrupt poverty and to move out of poverty and stop those cycles of poverty.
LaShawna Walker here, former program participant, current Institutional Advancement Committee Chair, but most importantly, supporter and believer of EMPath and the impact that it has across communities, families, and generations. Truly inspiring. EMPath has built a model that really, really works. In their most intensive program, participants nearly tripled their incomes, going from $16,000 to $46,000 per year. I'm a living testament to that. And now EMPath is sharing their model across the globe and really changing the way this work is being done, impacting more lives and helping organizations work better. I implore you, please give to EMPath or your local exchange member organization. Help them and support the work that is being done to make a difference in communities and families across the globe. You will see a QR code and a link on the screen, and the link will appear in the chat as well for your convenience.
I'd really like to thank all the people who have come together to make this work possible. You know, at EMPath, we are, and the work that we're doing is the result of amazing contributions from every direction. We are, and this work is transforming human services. And it's because we aren't doing it alone. We're doing it with the support and impact of our participants and their voices, our staff and their wonderful ideas, our partnering organization and their endless creativity and energy and power, the funders and other leaders, community leaders that have supported our work financially and also in so many countless other ways. They say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it definitely has taken this amazing collective to move our work forward, and we're just endlessly grateful for it and draw our strength from it. So if we're able to transform the world the way that we hope we will, it will be due to the fact that we're just not doing it alone. It's the result of everyone and everyone's contributions to do it together.
Thanks so much, Beth. I'd also like to thank the sponsors of tonight's event, especially our transformational sponsors, the Patriots Foundation, Ernst & Young, Humboldt Moving and Storage, and Deloitte. Also our change agent sponsors, State Street, Anchor Capital Advisors, PwC, and Eastern Bank. And finally, I'd like to thank the rest of our supporters who've made tonight's event possible. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate you taking your time to learn about EMPath and our Economic Mobility Exchange this evening. As I mentioned, I will now be turning to Q&A. So if you have questions, you can put those into the chat box and I'll be taking them in the order that they come in. If not, you're free to log off at this point. Thanks again for coming, and we hope to be in touch with you soon.